Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and respective computer keys. My name is Chris Cariani, and I did my project on Romania and its relations with the United States. Now, before we get started, I just want to say that I spent my last 3 years of high school in Romania. I am Romanian, so if you guys have any more in-depth questions, either about the standard of living or what it's like in Romania, feel free to ask. Now, as for my agenda, we're going to go into the who, what, where, when, and why Romania. I'll basically give you guys a quick description of Romania, just so you guys can understand. From there, I'll dive into the historical background and context. This will basically set up the scene for our current foreign affairs and the relationships today. And then I'll just dive into what I think the future holds. So here we have two maps of Romania. On the left, we have Romania in respective to the rest of Europe. The darker color right there is Romania, and then the lighter green colors around it are all nations part of the European Union. On the right-hand side, we basically zoom in on Romania a little bit. We have Bucharest, its capital, all the way down southeast almost. And my parents had actually grown up in Constanța, which is the seaside, all the way to the east, right over there. I don't know if you guys can see, but that Brasov, it's kind of in the middle. That's basically the mountainside. But yeah. So these are two more pictures of Romania. You guys know Vlad the Impaler and Transylvania. It's basically where the whole myth of vampires had really originated. That's the picture on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I've actually been here before. It's called Piața Victoriei. And this is, the picture itself is a skyline view of Bucharest, which is the capital. But yeah. Now the who, what, where, and when. Now, Romania borders Hungary to the west, and Ukraine to the east, and Bulgaria to the south. So after our talks about the Ukraine, you guys might have a better understanding where Romania lies. It's the most western shore of the Black Sea. I had shown the picture of you guys earlier. Bucharest is its capital. It's basically got an upper middle income economy, and its currency is called the Romanian leu. It's also the ninth largest country in the European Union, with the seventh largest population at a little over 20 million, I'd say. So now for a quick pre-Cold War context, when World War II had broken out sometime in September of 1939, Romania was known as this military dictatorship fighting with the axis of powers. Now, this military dictatorship was under a man named Marshal Antonescu. He was, overthrown, removed, if you will, maybe 5 years later, and Romania had started joining the Allies. This also didn't really last long because they were forcibly made into a People's Republic and a member of the Warsaw Pact in 1947. This was mainly due to the fact that Romanian territories were occupied by the Soviet Union, and the Red Army was actually stationed in Romania. The People's Republic really lasted until 1965, when Communist Romania had taken over. Now, this whole Socialist Republic of Romania had started in 1965. Nicolae Ceausescu had established it. It was known as the most Stalinist police state in the Eastern Bloc. This was mainly for its austerity steps, which had impoverished Romanians and depleted the economy, and also for its cult of personality. Now, the Romanian Revolution had overthrown this authoritarian government in December 1989. By this time, most of its foreign debt was also paid off, so it mainly put Romania in a good stance to maybe create some democratic relations. But we'll get there in a little bit. Now for quick stepping stones. In 1972, there was a consular convention, and that led to the signing of OPIC. OPIC is basically its overseas private investment corporation. Um, what this allowed Romania to do was be eligible for U.S. export and import bank credits. It essentially opened up tradeways between the U.S. and Romania. A little after that, there was multiple trade agreements signed in 1975. This granted Romania its MFN status. MFN basically means most favored nation, and what happens with this is that it's renewed every year based on the presidential review of whether Romania has made progress within its nation. Um, you know, this progress usually regards whether it's making any political or economic reform, and it's relative to the freedoms allowed in the state. Now, this status really didn't last long. It ended in the mid-80s for the fact that Ceausescu had renounced the status as it interfered with Romanian sovereignty. Well, despite its political differences, Ms. Ceausescu had actually visited Washington in 1978. Now, building better relations, I took this point of view after the fall of communism because really prior to that, there had been fluctuations um, in relationships between the U.S. and Romania. Now, this new essentially after this communist rule had been overthrown, this really gave the U.S. a good opportunity to increase its influence in the area. Now, a new government was implemented, free and fair parliament, and for presidential elections. This was made in 1992, in September. From there, the U.S. Congress had restored its MFN status to Romania in November '93. This was basically for the fact that Romania had been making strides toward instituting political and economic reform. From there, we see in 1996, Romania had gained its permanent MFN status as granted by the United States. A year later, Bill Clinton had even visited Romania, Bucharest, its capital more specifically. Now, President Clinton at the time had initiated cooperation with shared interests. It was basically televised that Romanians and Americans had similar interests in economic and political development, defense reform, and nonproliferation. From there, we skip ahead a couple years. Romania had fully supported U.S. in its initiative on the global war on terror. They were even part of this American-led coalition of the willing, which basically supported the invasion of Iraq. And they were also invited into NATO in November 2002, and then they later joined formally in March '04. These goals essentially established were unequivocally pro-Western, and this really made a basis for how Romania could establish further relations with Western nations. So continuing this building, essentially in 2005, both the Romanian president and the American president had discussed bilateral defense cooperation agreements, and you can see over there on the right-hand side is a picture of both of them. The Romanian president's name is actually Traian Băsescu, which is the guy on the left. Around 6 years later, there's this Romanian-U.S. adopted law which basically allowed the establishment and operations of land-based ballistic missiles as part of a defense system. Romania was part of NATO at this time, and NATO's efforts to build a continental missile shield had also incorporated Romania as well. Now, currently, in December of this past year, Romanian base was used for U.S. troops withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, the U.S. had been recently supportive of Romania in its military modernization, improving its interoperability with American and NATO forces, and even increasing its deployment capabilities. The U.S. has seen Romania as a formidable force, and having improved their military standpoint, this would be a benefit for the future. Now, the U.S. has also been invested in Romanian information technology, telecommunications, energy services, and manufacturing industry. These have been the main investments for U.S. businessmen and um, and investors in in the Romanian economy. Also, I just put it a little bit farther down. You can see its major exports are chemicals, steel and metallic items, plastics and rubbers, and clothing. Now, basically, for what I think the future holds, I foresee a lot of increased cooperation between the nations. Um, there's a focus around defense modernization and improvement. This is basically for the fact that both nations have national security issues, which they share. Building off of that, the main fact that there has been repeated demonstrations of support on both sides. They feel that improving their military standpoint could prove to be beneficial in the future. Have there been any conflicts arising in Eastern Europe, as we have seen? And from there, we can also see there's an increased commitment to supporting this human rights movement. This was basically one of the main reasons the U.S. had hindered some relations in the past, but now their increasing commitment had really strengthened the relationship. Now, just in quick discussion, how many or how could relations with the Romania help current conflict in Crimea, um, whether this be with assisting Russia or defending Ukraine in any way or assisting the U.S. Um, and its standpoint in the area. As a politician, where do you see the advantage of having Romania as an ally? And our last question, it's more of a what if, but if Romania had remained pro-communist, how do you envision the U.S. foreign policy towards the nation? I took this more as a modern concept, so do you think that these relations would be a little bit more on the hostile end, as it were as towards the Soviet Union, or as cooperative as it is toward modern day China? And explain. Don't all jump at once. But that's about it. And here are my sources. Thank you.